Hey everyone, it's John at National Sports Entertainment, and I want to go into tomorrow's games. I want to do a recap of tonight. Now, this one, if you saw my last video, we predicted it twice now, and we predicted it in live time, and people did amazing. I did amazing when I got in, and most people that even got in on the later end were getting +3 to 500, but I don't want to harp on this one, but I only had a few minutes to put the video out because I wanted people to have as much time as possible. So it was midway through the third or something like that when we were able to get it out. And like I said, it just seemed like the fourth was going to go the Jags' way. Now, the interesting thing is there's a lot of things that I noticed that just made me feel like the Jags were going to come back. And I went over some of them in the video. The most obvious to me was just the fact that they had the Chargers have a bunch of opportunities to go up big, but they just never did. So when it was 7-0, and then you had like 2-3 interceptions, and then it was 10-0, 17-0. 17-0 is not bad for throwing that many interceptions. And then when it was 27-0, I was watching. It became 27-7, and that's when I kind of became on alert, and I was waiting to see what the Chargers did, and sure enough, you could see they just started slowing it down. They were getting sacked. They were punting, field goals instead of touchdowns. Now, all that's happening at once, but what really made it interesting was I thought back a couple years ago, and I had gone into this before for a reason. I really think it made more sense for the Jags to win this game because, as you can see, when that happens, it matches up. This is at least who I think is going to win. It's going to match up then with the Chiefs with the Jags. Now, this reminded me of a couple years ago when the Texans, I think a couple people thought they were a dark horse who may make a run. They were up at 28-0 against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs came back and just pounded them. But my point is, I think they need a team like the Jaguars here who can have people believe, oh, this team can score. They're not going to give up. You know, they can put up a bunch of points quick. The Chargers lost twice against the Chiefs. So all those things combined, it gave me memories of that game, that specific game I thought of, and that's one of the reasons we like the Jags. And Lawrence, he starts off with four interceptions, and they were basically just building how he was going to come back and throw at least 3-4 touchdowns, and sure enough, he did. And there's a lot that happened outside of this. Let's talk about the little things that nobody wants to talk about. Or not nobody wants to talk about, but they just seem like nothings. So people think Bosa was actually mad. No, he wasn't. This was a way for them to have an easy 2-point conversion that they could just win the game with a field goal and have a walk-off victory. Just avoid overtime. So that's all that was. There was nothing more to that. This man was 2 feet from the sidelines and easily could have avoided that penalty. And now the Jacksonville Jags, at best, tie the game there. So there's just a lot of things there that get overlooked. And the 2 field goals at the end, I'll take them because I felt like the script was in our favor. But you have a 40-yarder that just seemed to hook right away, right, left. And then our kick did not look too good, but it just kind of hung up there. It almost got hung up like there was a vacuum where it just wouldn't let it leave. It was hooking right, and it just kind of stayed. And, of course, it stayed in there. So I do genuinely think, and what's interesting also is when he went to kick this, the coach called the timeout, and usually the coach will call a timeout and look at their practice kick. This referee tackled the guy so he couldn't get his practice kick. I think they had their magnets in order, and they wanted to make sure that nothing was going to throw them off. If you haven't seen the magnetic, the proof of just by watching it, you'll see people don't kick sliders. They don't kick curveballs. It's very interesting. So there's a lot that happened that I wanted to go into. This is stuff that happened after my video, of course, but it just shows how it's all a show, and how easily they can make one team look so good. And just with a couple nice plays, a missed field goal here and a made field goal there, and we have a different winner. And Lawrence looks amazing now. Now people really are going to be rooting him going into Kansas City. And that was the biggest thing. I thought he was going to have to look strong going into Kansas City. And then we got the Niners. They did do better than I thought. Although I do think they're planting seeds for Brock Purdy. If you notice, most of his plays were yards after catch. Really players just bailing him out. So that one, again, I think we know what's going to happen as far as that. I'm going to do a simulator going into the next round, of course, but I just wanted to handle tomorrow since we have 3 games and just go into why I really did like the Jags, the matchup, the public, the way the announcers were acting, the way the Chargers started playing prevent defense. When you start seeing that stuff at the least, if people got in at 9.5, I think the Jags were at plus 9.5. They were at plus 16.5 when I did my video. Play leg 4. That's a good question. It's usually maybe like 1 in 5 or so. I close out almost every third leg. I'll play a leg 4 if I can get good value or if it's a contingency game. For example, week 18, I knew for a fact that both the Bills and the Dolphins couldn't lose. I knew both of those teams couldn't lose. It didn't make sense. So just because otherwise it would have eliminated teams from the playoffs early. I went into it in the whole video. So if there's 2 teams I love and they're playing after each other, then I might do a leg 4. But usually leg 3, you cut it off for value purposes. And I'll go into my system and why we've been doing so well with it. But yeah, so as far as, the Jags, I think we have a good our finger over the pulse what they're doing there. They like Lawrence, and I think the Chargers will be good next year. I know a lot of people liked the Chargers. Again, you have to look at it like wrestling. Again, they planted the seeds that Lawrence is the guy and the Jags are the team that could possibly upset the Chiefs. So here we have Bills, Dolphins, and again, it's one where you really want to just, you don't want to play a 13.5 point spread. A few people recommended I do a parlay. I thought about it, and I'm thinking on both ends here, right? Are they going to just have the Bills cremate the Dolphins because then they can explain away why they needed Tua and why the Bills are doing it for DeMar? Or is it a close game and they're going to explain, well, we have a third string safety in now and we're going up against 2 of the best receivers in the league? So I can see it going both ways. I personally think the Bills just need to win. They don't need to win by 14 for the public, but I do think the public, A, because they probably want them to win, and B, because no Tua, I think they're going to be all over Buffalo. So I'm going to buy a 0.5 point, and I like Miami here to cover. Now, of course, I know Buffalo's going to win the game, but we're not getting any value on that. So it's easy to say, yeah, Bills win, but, there's no value. So Dolphins plus 14 I like, and I do like the Bills to cover or to win this game. I just like the Dolphins to cover. But yeah, the Bills are going to win, and I'm going to go into why I really like them to represent the AFC, to be quite honest. I think it's pretty obvious at this point. Giants-Vikings, I've been back and forth on that one. Now, I do like the Vikings a little more now than I did because the Jags won. I think you need, one team that's considered like an upset. Now, the interesting thing about the Giants is people have talked about the Bucs-Giants connection, and yeah, it's possible, but I do think that the Vikings are going to win here. I think they want teams that are considered top teams with double-digit wins here, Eagles, Niners, because the Cowboys are probably going to get booted. So I think, and, a little bit of spoiler, but I'll go into why I think that happens. But I think the Vikings have to get this win, look pretty strong, especially with how the Niners did. The question is, do they cover, right? It's at 3 points. This one I am going to just keep, because I think if they win, they'll win. They might win by 2. Maybe I'll get a push, but I'm just going to take a -3. So I like the Dolphins to cover here. The 14, I'll take that, but I do like the Bills to win the game. And here, I think the Vikings not only win, but they do cover. And then we have the night game, which I don't know yet. I'm going to go into that. There's a lot of story to be told. It's, Lamar's franchise year, so they could get destroyed. It's another contingency game, though, because let's look at it. Let's say the Bills is a close game and the Vikings is. Better chance the Bengals might be a blowout. That's just how it usually goes. Today we had a blowout in a close game. So it doesn't always go that way. But I just wanted to show people kind of how I go about making my picks. It's not just it's scripted. I take a lot into account. And that's why I post this every single day, every night. And it's just how we did with our sequences. It goes into metrics, and we are up I think we've netted 75 units, and that's including a lot of ones where we've lost 3 legs, like it was brought up earlier. That's a 7-unit loss if you lose a 3-legger. Now today, I didn't include any of the Jaguars money. Personally, I've won between 10 or 14 units if you include my prop bets where I took Lawrence to hit his prop and win. If you include that, I probably won 10 to 14 units on that game alone. But I understand not everybody was getting in on them. So these are just the picks that everybody was able to get in on, well ahead of time. And even with that, we were able to close 10 sequences. And again, over the course of, since we've started this just a couple weeks ago, because we were shut down and we were up well over 200 units when we were shut down the first time, we're up over 70 units. We have a couple open sequences. The Hornets didn't go our way. We're not going to get them all. But the goal, again, is to just close 7 sequences for every 3 leg that we lose. And I'm going to go into those metrics. I know it's a lot, but like I said, I really wanted to get into these games. And I'll go more into the system, but if you watch the playlist, then it kind of reveals itself to you. But I wanted to go into tomorrow's. Is not, like I said, if anything live comes up, I will be the first to let you guys know. Tonight was it was something in my gut, and I don't always get it. It's not often I'll do a live video saying this team's going to come back, because I don't want people, playing crazy odds. I just really, really felt obligated and compelled to get that out because I was doing it, and to me it was great odds because the announcers gave it away. So I'm really happy for everyone that did well, and I think we do great tomorrow. Like I said, if anything were to change, I would let you guys know, of course. But as far as now, and they'll both be leg 2s, actually, since we have a couple basketball ones that lost on leg 1 tonight. Dolphins plus 14, Vikings minus 3. If you want to make the Vikings minus 2.5, you certainly can. Some people might just parlay the 2 teams, Buffalo, however you want to do it. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to play the spreads. So Dolphins plus 14, I'll buy that half, and the Vikings minus 3. And the Bills win, but there's no value there. So those are my covers, and I'll look into the Ravens for tomorrow. We have a couple college, I think, tomorrow, like 2, but still worth playing. We did good with college today, and I'll look at the NBA as well. But I'm guessing it's going to be predominantly these 3 games. And again, based off how the first 2 go, I'll have a lot more confidence if the Bengals are going to cover or not. But yeah, thank you, everybody. As I said, we were shut down on Christmas, and we've retained 30% of our audience, which is amazing. And people that have been here from the beginning and new people, I just appreciate and love the support. As you know, for a couple days I wasn't feeling great. Came back to a bunch of love and support, and as you can see, it just pays. Kind of, it's. I think it's very reciprocal because we did extremely well. Maybe I needed the rest, but we did extremely well with our return. So that's all we're going to keep doing is going forward. Just keep plugging away, and I think we'll be over 100 units. As I said multiple times, I think we'll be over 100 units by the divisional round, and I'm going to go into who I think wins the Super Bowl. I already did. Not much has changed, but I found some interesting things for the symbolism guys and for the gematria people. Not as much gematria, just interesting symbolism with a couple teams here. But yeah, everybody, I always appreciate everything. I know I say it a lot, but I do mean it, and it just means a lot because you guys always keep me wanting to put out videos and, make sure that we're doing what nobody else is doing. And that's what's awesome, is I can say definitively that we are doing what nobody else is doing. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.